We're starting. We on? We're good? We're good. Live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, I guess, wherever you are in the world, whatever time you're watching this. If you're watching this after the fact, obviously nobody's watching right now because I'm looking at my little live thing and there's 0 people are here. But that's okay. We'll get there. Today, I'm going to continue our online live catalog of rings. We're doing rings still. And we'll be a little bit all over the show. There'll be some ovals, some bears, some, there's all kinds of shapes here. And a couple of very cool ones too. But before we do that, we're just going to do the regular preamble. My name is Mark. I'm your online live show catalog presenter today. SilviaFindings is Canada's premier service for sterling silver findings, hence the name SilviaFindings, I guess. Pendants, bales, rings, chains, wire, sheet metal, beads, you name it. If it's made out of sterling, we got it. And we also, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, it'll be up on the website any moment, literally. But we just started getting some pendant settings, some rounds and some ovals. I took pictures of the rounds, but I saw that there were also ovals. 14 karat gold pendant settings, so that's exciting. Something new, and I don't know if you can see there also. I don't know if I'm supposed to show you this, I think, but I don't know if you can see that. It's there behind the boxes. We've got our new fabulously expensive 3D printer that prints castable resin. So for the custom people who are local, I guess, or I guess it doesn't really matter when, we can print you a sample of your custom product before we cast it. We can either send it to you or you can try it here, if you like. But I think also a service that is not often offered, because the quote-unquote hobby 3D printers, the resolution is normally pretty terrible, and the pieces that you print for that, especially for jewelry, it looks almost like a topographic map. They're just not that. Oh, cha-ching! Sorry. Not sorry. It's an order coming through on my app on my phone, so I love that cha-ching sound. Anyway, one service that people are doing, because normal resolution printers are just not very good, especially for jewelry, and for casting. Even the ones that do print in castable resin, which just means resin that you can melt when you're doing the firing program, in a kiln with the thing. I mean, you have to know the whole casting process for any of this to make sense. But those of you who do will be excited to know that if you have 3D models that you created yourself, we'll print them for you. I don't know what the fee is. I know we were just talking about that. And I know that there are a couple of people who are waiting for us to get this, set up, so that we can print orders for them, print prototypes for them that then they will take and cast themselves or whatever. I don't know what they'll do with it. Once it's gone from here, I think it's not my problem anymore. My point is, this printer is one of those super high resolution printers that you'll be able to print a piece and cast directly from that piece. Instead of using that to make a prototype that you would then file down and make it beautiful, or when you're doing wax carving for casting, there are a lot of different tricks you can use to make the surfaces of the wax carving beautiful and smooth using different solvents and whatnot. But the beauty of and kind of like the the beauty and the beast of using 3D printing to print those wax blanks is that, first of all, obviously you can do them directly out of wax, but they're very fragile, obviously, and just the resolution isn't very good. You know, there's needs to have a lot of work done to them after the fact. You know, with this printer, there won't be that. And using this castable resin, which is a resin that is made specifically for jewelry applications, where you're going to take the 3D printed piece that you've printed and use that, you know, tree it up in a regular tree, you know, a casting tree that you're doing, and then, you know, cast it away. During the burnout phase in the kiln, you know, the castable resin melts about the same temperature as most of the waxes do, and so they burn out beautifully. You know, but they're really super smooth and super great, and pretty hard. So you can even try them on if it's a ring or whatever. You can try them on. We're using it a lot, or our plan is to use it a lot for custom orders, so that we can try the stones in them. You know, I think we also have coming soon. 3D scanner, which is also another fabulously expensive, you know, piece of machinery that will eliminate the issues that we have, because sometimes, even though when we do a custom order, we have the dimensions, you know, measured, you know, correctly with a caliper, with a digital caliper that's like, you know, super accurate. And we, you know, have photographs of the shape, you know, so, you know, it's all that information theoretically is all there. But sometimes between the measuring the stones phase and the design phase, there are issues with how and it's almost always with the way the seats are traditionally designed. You know, if you have a stone that the pavilion is very, you know, wonky shape or super deep, it'll end up sitting higher up on the seat, and then the prongs may not be long enough, you know, so it takes a lot of, you know, fiddling around after the fact to get the stones to fit. Which is kind of defeats the purpose of having custom, because if you need to have, you know, somebody like a real jeweler like me go in and you know, carve out the seats to make the stones fit, then, you know, neither here nor there. Having a 3D scan of the stones in advance that the designers can then use directly in the design of the 3D CAD design of the pendant or the ring or whatever, will completely eliminate those issues, right? So, you know, because obviously if, you know, you have a 3D scan of a stone and you put the stone in the setting, if it bashes up against anywhere, you'll know in advance. Whereas with, you know, photographs and, you know, drawings and measurements of the stones, you don't always get those 3D issues. But anyway, neither here nor there. So those are things that we're heading towards, doing more and more custom all the time, which is why, you know, this is becoming necessary to do these things. Hopefully one day we'll do, well, I guess it kind of defeats the purpose of having our own factory in another location if we're also going to do casting here. But anyway, one can dream, right? Don't forget, if you share today's video, let us know, and we'll send you one of these polishing cloths, right? Sorry, Cece, I hung up on you. Pow! Nelson is in so much trouble. Should be like, Nelson, why you hang up on me? If you have any questions about anything jewelry related or not jewelry related, yeah, I'll make up an answer for anything. Please let us know. You can either let us know in the comments, or you can either let us know in the comments or send emails directly to us, mark@canadafindings.com, or just, you know, contact us through the website or through, you know, Facebook Messenger or wherever. I guess we're everywhere. We're accessible, and we're here as a resource. So use us. What else? I guess that's it. Oh, if you place orders, of course, during the live stream, don't forget you get 10% discount off the regularly priced items. And yeah. You know what? I don't even know what I was supposed to say. This is issue number blah, 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 but I don't even know what it is. It's 40 something, I think. Anyway. Just an update on shipping. Shipping everywhere is awesome, except Europe. It's still a dumpster fire getting stuff over there. Although it seems that some countries are worse than others. And right now, France, I think, is the worst. 44. Thank you. This is issue 44 of the catalog. Glad somebody's watching. Thing. So, having said that, we're going to get right to it. And let me just switch this around. And our first item, MTR 511, retail price of $22.01 and a wholesale price of $13.76. This is for a 10 by 12 millimeter pear shape. Now, this is one of those hybrid seats, right? That will accept a cabochon or a cut stone. The prongs are obviously designed for cabochons, right? So if it's a cut stone and the girdle sits pretty low to the seat, you may need to cut these down a little bit and then file the ends, make them beautiful. I'm a big fan of the double prongs versus the chevrons. I know the chevrons are a little more traditional, but I find these much easier to set. Much less, I don't know, chance of the tip of the stone breaking. Which is pretty rare. And I just love this, I don't know, kind of flourish setting, It looks like, I don't know, it's very cool. It looks like an angry transformer or something, right? Very cool. And kind of a wide band. I don't know what that is, like 3 or 4 millimeters wide. Tapers down to about 2 millimeters maybe. But very lovely, very gorgeous. Our next item, MTR 311, with a retail price of $18.87 and a wholesale price of $11.80. This is for a 6 by 8 millimeter oval, and this is like the classic split shank. These prongs are bent from sitting in the trays, and trays sitting on top of each other. This is the classic split shank ring, right? With a lovely wide prongs. This is for a cabochon, although the basket is, kind of deep enough. You can get a cut stone in there, which would be great for all but the very deepest pavilions. Very simple, very elegant. I don't know, you can't go wrong with that, right? The split shank. Our next item, MTR 321, with a retail price of $16.11 and a wholesale price of $12.08. This is for 8 by 9 millimeter oval. You could probably get an 8 by 10 in there. I guess depends on the taper of the the top and the bottom. Very cool kind of ribbon with some cubic zirconias in there wrapped around that kind of a split, not really a split shank, but just a very cool mirror image. MTR, where are we? 312, with a retail price of $19.98 and a wholesale price of $12.49. This is for a 6 by 8 oval. Right, I love this. There are no cubic zirconias in there, but it kind of gives you that sort of a faux look there, right? With that the sort of flourishes, right? It's good size prongs, right? With that hybrid seat. So just about, it's ostensibly for cabs, but I would put a cut stone in there, no problem. Absolutely. MTR 385, with a retail price of $16.70 and a wholesale price of $11.69. This is for another 8 by 10 oval. This has got a kind of a interesting cup, I guess, base seat with a hole down in the bottom. Cabochons, ideally. Cut stones, definitely. Maybe also ideally. I think you could put anything in there and it would look awesome. I love the little trios of cubic zirconias up at the top where the ring band meets the seat. Very cool. The prongs are not super tall, so low dome prongs. They're notched, so cut stones are ideal in there. Our next one, MTR 392 with a retail price of $18.74 and a wholesale price of $13.12. This is for a 6x8 millimeter oval. Now I've set cabs in here. I've never tried setting a cut stone in there, although ostensibly you can see with that with the bevel where the seat is that this is designed for a cut stone, and these four little granulation points, right? We just push them over onto the girdle to hold the stone in there. Although you could probably do the same thing with a cabochon if the tapers all the way to the perimeter edge. If it's a really tall cab, you would have to glue that in there. But this is it's just such a gorgeous ring with that little segmented, I guess they call that beaded texture up at the top. Quite nice. Love that. MTR 504 with a retail price of $19.85 and a wholesale price of $12.41. This is for a 10 by 11.5. Might be able to get a 10 by 12 in there. Oh, I guess it would depend on the taper. 10 by 11.5 oval, cabochon or cut stone. Anything will fit in there. These are prongs that are designed for cabochons, right? With they're flat on the inside and tapered to a point on the outside. But if it's not too deep of a pavilion, I wouldn't feel weird putting a cabochon in there. Absolutely. Very cool, sort of horseshoe shaped or teardrop shaped, I guess. Ring shank where the shank meets the seat. MTR 343 with a retail price of $25.10 and a wholesale price of $16.73. This is for a 6x8 oval, and I don't know, just very classic, very simple, elegant, kind of a split shank, segmented shank with all those little pieces missing from there. I love how it kind of builds up, kind of like almost Art Deco style, but not. Don't at me. I like the little rows of cubic zirconias in the bottom and the top. Right, very cool, very cute. Perfect for cabochons or cut stones. You can put anything in there, and that would work great. MTR 314 with a retail price of $18.62 and a wholesale price of $11.64. This is for 8 by 10 millimeter oval. Now, this is definitely designed for a cabochon. I guess if it's a really, really, really shallow pavilion, you might be able to get a cut stone in there. But considering how thick these the walls of the seat are, you have to imagine how shallow of a taper you'd need to have in a cut stone in order for the girdle to get below the level of these prongs. So definitely, this is one of those low dome cab is pretty much what you need to have to fit in here. I love these kind of like wavy effect, right, of that split shank. Again, another mirror image from one side to the other. Very cool ring. MTR 038 with a retail price of $20.26 and a wholesale price of $15.15. This is for a 10 by 12 millimeter oval. Oh no, one of the prongs is broken. 10 by 12 oval, right? There's some almost like fleur-de-lis sort of accents on the sides. Nice wide seat. So this is probably designed for a cabochon, right? Because the pavilion is not very, or the finger space is pretty close to the seat. So cut stone would have to be pretty shallow to fit in there. MTR 391 with a retail price of $17.52 and a wholesale price of $12.26. This is for a 5 by 7 millimeter pair cabochon. Again, you'd have to glue that in there. Although I guess the tops of these are pretty pretty thin, so you might be able to just push those over with a bezel pusher to get in there. I think safest though is if you glue it, and ideally that looks like it's about a 2mm bezel wall, so the sides of your cab should be pretty tall to fit in there. Again, another cool thing would be if you could seal off the back with some tape and then fill that with epoxy resin in whatever color or shape you want, or you can make one of those, there's a lot of people who are making that commemoration jewelry where they take people's breast milk and they dehydrate it and they mix the powder with epoxy resin and some crushed stones or different colors and then fills them into rings or whatever, or they make their own cabs. But you can definitely fill that with that kind of concoction. Very cool option. MTR 127 with a retail price of $20.66 and a wholesale price of $15.08. This is for a 7x9 oval. This is a cut stone. I've put tons of cut stones in these and they fit gorgeous. I can't remember off the top of my head ever putting a cab in there, although if it's a low enough dome cab, because these prongs are pretty short, right? So they're designed for cut stones, but if the dome is low enough and tapers right to the edge, you could definitely put a cab in there, right? That's just kind of a classic, not quite what they call a slave ring, but very similar, right, to that design. Just very cool, very bold design. There's a good word. MTR 008 with a retail price of $14.42 and a wholesale price of $9.91. This is for a 6x8 oval. Again, with these super tall prongs, you can put just about any cab you can imagine in there. It's got, a flat seat, so a cut stone, just based on these really super tall prongs, I wouldn't feel weird putting a cut stone in there at all, unless the pavilion is super deep and extends into the finger space. That might be an issue. This very cool kind of fluted design, right, with a little row of cubic zirconias on both sides. Very cute. Very, am I going to say it? Yes. Elegant. MTR 201 with a retail price of $18.91 and a wholesale price of $12.77. This is for a 6x8 oval. Anything. Cabochon cut stone will fit in there. It's got that hybrid seat, so ostensibly cut stones. But it's got the prongs that are flat on the inside and tapered on the outside, so you could put anything in there. This is one of those rings that any 8x10 stone will fit in there quite beautifully, right? You gotta love that cute little design inside the split shank. Can't go wrong. That's like a winner. And here's one that's kind of a good question. MTR 188 for a retail price of $26.15 and wholesale price of $18.41. This is for a 8x9mm heart-shaped stone. Now, somebody recently asked me, how do you measure hearts for, cabochons or cut stone? And let me get my caliper out here. We measure them based on the width of the widest part. So if this were the hard cab, we would measure this, along the widest part from there to there. Although it's kind of, prongs are in the way, so it doesn't really work. Let's see if we do this like this. Anyway, so we measure along the widest part of the heart, and then from the tallest part to the tip to that. So nothing to do with that, and nothing to do with here to there, just the tallest part by the widest part. And pretty simple. This is a lovely ring with a nice deep basket, so cut stones, cabochons, anything you can get in there. It's got that beautiful hybrid seat. excuse me, the prongs are not super tall, so cut stones would be best, probably. I love the double prongs, I guess, also down at the point, similar to that pear-shaped ring that we have. MTR 482 with a retail price of $21.07 and a wholesale price of $13.16. This is for a 5x7, yeah, 5x7 oval cabochon or cut stone. Boy, anything you can put in there, anything that fits in there will work. Just love this intertwining curves of cubic zirconias all the way throughout. Very simple, but super elegant ring. Can't go wrong. That's one that, even though there's lots of stones, it all brings the eye to the center stone. So you never have to worry about your stone, losing importance in a ring like that. This one, MTR 190, with a retail price of $27.59 and a wholesale price of $19.32. This is for a 10x12 oval. This has just a cute little split shank. And we have another one that's a smaller version of this. I think we did it last week. A couple cubic zirconias, right? Just for laughs. Very floral, very branchy, right? Can't go wrong. Nice deep basket for cut stones. Good sized prongs for cabochons. Is a winner. This one, I love this ring. MTR 541. It was a retail price of $16.89 and a wholesale price of $10.56. This is for a 5x7 millimeter oval. It's just got a very simple basket setting for the stone, right? For a 5x7, you can put a cut stone, you can put a cabochon in there, and the ring just kind of overlaps itself and goes past itself and terminates on the one side with the setting and the other side with a cute little butterfly there with a couple of cubic zirconias in the tip of that. Now this is not pulled is not an adjustable ring, right? Like this is actually cast all together into one piece. So it's connected here and it's connected there. So the rings are sized, right? So you can't just buy one and say, well, I like my ring to be a little bigger and stretch this open. I mean, you could try, but you'll probably break the ring. MTR 402 with a retail price of $20.98 and a wholesale price of $12.58. This is for a 10 millimeter. I know it looks like a rectangular setting, but this is for a 10 millimeter round stone. I don't know if you could see closely here, but you see how the notches here are in the corners of that? So and I don't have a 10 millimeter stone to show you in there. I might have a... I don't think I have one. It's that size. Sorry, I should have looked at this earlier. We got, what is that? I think that's an 8 millimeter. Yeah, that's not big enough. Right, so just so you can see how that works, right? It sits against the inside of those two. Now, obviously, the stone is too small for this thing, but you can just see it on the one side, right? So it sits inside those two notches, right? It's almost like kind of like a faux tension mount. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, it's very cool. I have also, and I'm not proud, but I will say I have said baguette stones in here, right? They had beveled corners, so they fit perfectly in there, and everything just worked gorgeous. So, even though it's ostensibly for 10 millimeter round setting, you might be able to get away with 10 by something-ish baguettes. Our next one, MTR 411 with a retail price of $14.24 and a wholesale price of $8.55. This is for a 5x5 millimeter triangle. Again, I guess, ideally for a cabochon, or that you would glue in there because the bezel wall is not very tall, not very deep. Although what looks really cool on these kind of settings is if you cut out a little piece of a picture, so you have like a little image that you can glue to the bottom and then fill that with clear epoxy resin. It's quite gorgeous. Another person asked me about triangles. How do we measure triangles? And I guess it depends. If the triangle is equilateral, the best way to do it is to measure it from the point to the flat, right? But if it's not, you kind of have to measure it from point to point, and then point to point, and then point to point, if that makes sense, But generally for the triangular settings, we measure them from flat to point, right? That's how we do it. Oops, sorry about banging the camera. MTR 387, because we're professionals here. MTR 387 with a retail price of $16.86 and a wholesale price of $11.80. This is for a 5 millimeter round, ideally round stone. You might be able to put a trilliant in there, a 5 millimeter trilliant, but it would really depend. Ideally, the corners would have to be not pointy, just slightly beveled. But the setting is for a round stone. I love this kind of like it's a trick that I used to do with jump rings. If you take say 3 or 4 jump rings and you connect them into each other and you stack them just right, it gives you this sort of like nested look. It's very cool. I think that's it for that tray. Moving right on. This one is, it's gorgeous, but it's tricky to set. This one, MTR is 204 with a retail price of $25.06 and a wholesale price of $18.14. This is for a 5x7 millimeter oval, and it's got one prong here to hold down on top of the stone, and there's a notch down in the other end that once you get your stone in there, cabochon or cut stone, you pull this notch down, you push this. I don't know if you can see that it's carved there, right? So you can push this down and then push these down just enough to tack the stone in there, to hold the stone in there. And this prong is doing maybe more work than a normal setting would do, but not more than it's capable of, kind of thing. And I only say that it's tricky to set this because, the area here gets pretty thick. So you have to use quite a bit of force to get this to push down onto the stone. It's super gorgeous when it's done, when it's made. It's one of my favorites, but it's a little tricky to set, which, if you bought one of these, happy to, get on Skype with you, or I guess Skype isn't a thing anymore. Get on Zoom with you and help you set that, absolutely. Hey, that's a good service we should do. MTR 015 with a retail price of $20.12 and a wholesale price of $12.57. This is for 8x9.5 oval. Probably maybe you get an 8x10 in there, I guess, depending on the taper at the corners. The hybrid seat for a cabochon or a cut stone, either will work beautifully. Just love that sort of split shank with all these extra little components and the cubic zirconias in the the corners, the top and bottom corners. Very cute. We got MTR 007 with a retail price of $20.97 and a wholesale price of $12.58. This is for a 6x8 millimeter oval. You can put a cabochon in there. You can put a cut stone in there. Anything that you want will work. Very cute, border around the seat with a bunch of cubic zirconias in there. One interesting thing about this, I love how the top of this ring from the front tapers to a very tiny, sliver, but from the side, it's pretty wide. I mean, it's not wider than most rings. I just love how it's a little, I don't know, counterintuitive, right? It looks like it's so thin, but it's pretty wide. Love it. Love it. MTR 436 with a retail price of $21.60 and a wholesale price of $14.40. This is for a 10 by 12 millimeter oval cabochon or a cut stone. Anything will work in here. I mean, I guess as long as if it's a cabochon, as long as the dome is not super high. These are pretty good sized prongs though, so pretty much it would have to be really egregiously tall to not fit in there. It's just very cute, very simple, sort of flourishes up around the sides. Almost, let's call it post-industrial, right? Because anything with a framework is post-industrial. That's my aesthetic. MTR 177 with a retail price of $25.33 and a wholesale price of $17.70. This is for an 11 millimeter cushion cut square stone. And I say cushion cut because of the curvilinear sides, right? If you put a regular square stone in there, these would bulge out the edges, which might look cool, actually, that I'm thinking of it. I probably wouldn't put a cabochon in here, only because, if the cabochon is flat against this, then it can slide pretty easily. And if the corners are very pointy, which they're normally not in cushion cut stones, but if they are very pointy, it's only those 4 little points that are holding on to these things, and they are notched on the inside, so there is space for those points to go. But a cut stone would be, like a faceted stone with a pavilion would be way more secure in here, because not only do the prongs just hold the stone down, but the pavilion in the seat holds the stone from going sideways, where with a cabochon, it wouldn't do that. It would probably still work, and I don't want to dissuade you from that. It's got a nice wide band, probably 4 millimeters wide up near the top. Our next item, MTR 273, with a retail price of $14.69 and a wholesale price of $9.18. This is for a 4 by 5 millimeter oval. Very cute, very little. Cut stones fit in here. Ostensibly, this is designed for cut stones for sure. Let me just move that out of the way. Very cute. It has that same, taper where it's kind of wide along the inside and tapers to a nice tiny little point, a nice sliver along the outside. Very elegant, cute little flowy bands with a little silver dot holding the seat against the ring. Very cool. Very awesome design. Boy, I would like to see this bigger, a big one, like an 8 by 10 or a 10 by 12 version of that. That would be gorgeous. MTR 325 with a retail price of $22.59 and a wholesale price of $16.94. This is for a 7 by 9 millimeter oval. Very traditional split shank with the cubic zirconias coming up the sides with a flowery basket setting. Now the seat is flat, with the cabochon type prongs where they're flat on the inside, tapered to a point on the outside. So ostensibly, this ring is designed for a cabochon, but I would put a cut stone in here in a heartbeat. Really, really, absolutely. You may need to cut these prongs down because these might be a little bit tall if the girdle sits pretty low to the ring. But that would be gorgeous with a cut stone or a cab. And that's a pretty deep basket. So it would have to be a really goofy pavilion to not work in that. MTR 049 with a retail price of $20.21 and a wholesale price of $15.51. This is for a 10 by 14 millimeter oval. See how stretchy that is. Now, this is 100% designed for a cut stone. You can see the little notch down at the bottom for the culet to fit in there. It's a pretty good sized basket, pretty deep basket, but I would want to try my stone in here before I knew for sure. You know, worst case scenario, well, even then, I was going to say worst case scenario, you could drill that hole straight through so the culet hangs out the bottom, but then the culet would be hanging into the finger space and would scratch on you. So, yeah, or you could put a cabochon in there if it's a low dome cab and it tapers right to a point. But these are designed for a cut stone, so let's go with that. I love this kind of scroll work, side-looking scroll work, right? So from the front, it's pretty simple. Looks like a couple of little dots on the side, but from the side, it's very, very cool, very neat. A little scroll work with little dots on there. MTR 423 with a retail price of $15.58 and a wholesale price of $10.38. This is for an 8 by 10 millimeter oval cabochon or cut stone. Very simple kind of ribbon in the middle of that split shank, right? This is designed for a cabochon or a cut stone. It's definitely designed for a cut stone. It's got that beveled seat. The prongs are notched, so very easy to set. Boy, I wouldn't feel weird putting a cabochon in there at all, though. So you can do whatever you want. You can make it work. MTR 493 with a retail price of $24.14 and a wholesale price of $15.08. This is for a 10 by 12 oval. You can put anything in there. It's a cut stone, cabochons, anything works. I love this sort of flower with the nice deep, basket with that those little curly Q filigree components, right, holding the bottom of the basket and the top of the seat up. Nice kind of flower petals arrangement around the outside of the seat. It's a very cute ring, very gorgeous ring. And really easy to set. Here's one, and oh no, I've lost the tag. I've lost the tag, so I don't know the SKU of this, so maybe I'll bring it back next week. I just love this, so because the prongs are super tall, so crazy tall cabochons. So just, we'll see that next week once I put a new tag on it with new particulars. MTR 178 with a retail price of $26.24 and a wholesale price of $19.68. This is for, what is that? 6x8 oval cabochon that you would glue in there. Although again, because I'm obsessed with that epoxy resin, if you seal the back, you could definitely fill that with resin. Put a little image down at the bottom, or put some, your dog's hairs, cut some pieces of that and mix it up, and then you can make like your own kind of like rutilated quartz with your dog's hairs, or I don't know, very cute commemorative ring. You make it up as you go. That's the whole point. I love this cool texture, this kind of like almost snakeskin texture up along the sides. Right, nice wide band. What is that? Almost probably 5 millimeters. Maybe 6 millimeters wide up at the top, tapered down to a very doable 4 millimeters down at the bottom. Yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous ring. Very versatile too. MTR 443 with a retail price of $20.05 and a wholesale price of $12.53. This is for a 6x7 mm pear-shaped stone. And again, similar to the heart question and the triangle question, how we measure the stones. And I'm going to do a whole video about how to use calipers because people seem to be lost with these things. We measure the widest point of the curve, right? That's the one measurement. And then from the tip to the bottom of the drop, that's the other measurement. So this is a very simple, classic halo ring with the cubic zirconia halo all the way around the seat. A little bit of a open shank, right, with a cute little curves down at the sides where the sides of the ring hit that solid seat. This has got that chevron prong, so make sure that the pear's cabochon or cut stone you put in there has a pointy tip at the top. If it's a cut stone, a faceted stone with a pavilion, it's not as important. But if it's a cabochon, definitely got to have a pointy tip to be able to hold in there. Right. MTR 383 with a retail price of $18.85 and a wholesale price of $13.19. This is for a 6x8 oval, and it's just, well, it is what it is, right? It's very simple, very classic, very simple, kind of squarish basket, kind of a squarish ring shape, right? From the front, it just looks like two silver bars outlining that simple basket setting. Very cool. MTR 488 with a retail price of $18.29 and a wholesale price of $11.43. This is for a 8x10 oval. This is another spiritual successor to, where is it? Oh, this one, like with the butterflies, right, in the thing. Very similar. The split shank with that, I don't know, very cool lines. Almost looks like a W. Wonder Woman? Wonder Woman's ring. This is now, from now on, I'm going to call this a Wonder Woman ring. Very simple open basket for a cabochon. Ideally, a cut stone if the pavilion is not too deep. Probably better for a cab, though. It's got the good size prongs with the flat cabochon prongs, right? Flat on the inside, rounded on the outside, tapered to a point. Very easy to push over onto the cab as long as the cab doesn't break. Anyway. I guess that's a concern if you're really crazy with the pressure. MTR 503 with a retail price of $19.53 and a wholesale price of $12.20. This is for a 10x12 oval. I guess ostensibly a cabochon would be best in here. You might be able to get away with a cut stone if it's a shallow pavilion, but this is designed for a cabochon. Although it's got that hybrid seat, so I guess it's meant for whatever you can get in there. I love this sort of quatrefoil shape of the border around the outside. Yes, that's a word. I didn't invent it. It's actually the word for that shape. People always push back on that. MTR 464 with a retail price of $23.76 and a wholesale price of $14.85. This is for an 8x10 oval cabochon or cut stone. I've said both in these rings. Both are gorgeous. Either works. I love that filigree component sort of looking, ring top, right, with the seat and the basket. And the row of cubic zirconias up the sides, right? Just a gorgeous ring. MTR 272 with a retail price of $23.07 and a wholesale price of $14.80. This is for a 9 by 11 millimeter oval cabochon or a cut stone. Oh, this prong is pretty well bent. For a cabochon or a cut stone, you can put whatever you want in there. I love that triple split shank, right? A very simple, very classic basket setting. This obviously has been sitting in the trays long enough that other trays have been stacked on top of it and the prongs have bent over. But, you know, the one you get will be gorgeous when we get that, when we send it to you. Here's another spiritual cousin to the other with the split shank with the shapes on the inside. This is kind of a cute, I don't know what that is. You could just make up your own name for it. I think I'm the only person who's actually read, there's a famous anthropologist whose name is Horace Beck, and he wrote a book when he was doing, I guess, the archaeological study of some bead excavations in Norway, Iceland, somewhere. Some Viking things. Maybe it was Denmark. Anyway, he wrote a whole book. This is like in the 1908 or 1920s, maybe. Horace Beck, Nomenclature of Beads. And just he made up names for all of the shapes that sort of became the de facto standard. So that's where I'm getting my names of shapes from. So anyway, neither here nor there. So this has kind of like a gap, right, between the, almost like a halo, but it doesn't have cubic zirconias in there, right? Very simple, very elegant. Horace Beck. I guess you didn't figure you'd be hearing anything about anthropology today. MTR 465 with a retail price of $15.15 and a wholesale price of $9.48. This is for a 5 by 7 millimeter. Is it? That looks round to me. I'll have to double check that. I think that width of that, but it's a lovely ring with the cubic zirconias on the sides, you know, followed by two little, I think I'm going to put that aside because that to me does not look like 5 by 7. This is for a 6 millimeter round stone. So I'm just going to put that aside and make sure that gets changed, that gets edited. MTR 316 with a retail price of $19.98 and a wholesale price of $12.49. This is for an 8 by 10, and this I believe 8 by 10 millimeter oval cabochon or cut stone. You can put anything in there. Love this cubic zirconias sort of interlinking with the silver rings in the shank. I mean, obviously they're not actual silver rings, they're just faux silver rings, but it looks cool. Definitely. MTR 275 with a retail price of $13.47 and a wholesale price of $8.42. This is for a 3 by 5 millimeter oval, and I've set stones in these. It's not as difficult as it looks. Generally smaller stones are a pain to set, but this is really, really super simple for cut stones. Anyway, you could probably try a cab in there, but it'd have to be a really small one. I prefer cut stones in there, and they set gorgeously in here. I just want to say, I love that lovely kind of cross weave up at the top of the shank, right where the shank meets the where are we? MTR 389 with a retail price of $19.66 and a wholesale price of $13.76. This is for a 7 by 9 millimeter pear shape. Although I guess depending on how you might be able to put a heart shaped in there if you want to, you know, kink that down a little bit. I'd stick to pears though. This has got a nice wide. I know it sort of looks like a double prong, but it's not. It's definitely a chevron, but it's got a nice wide chevron with a real deep notch in there. So the point of your cabs will fit in there, or cut stone. Ideally, it's a cut stone you're putting in there, right? Because the nice deep basket with those lovely, what is that? It looks like a Mercedes Benz symbol there. Very cool. I never noticed that before. But I do love this kind of very cool, you know, I don't know, random energetic, split shank down at the bottom. And the hearts upon hearts on the split shank on the bottom. Has a very eclectic ring. Lots of different elements coming together in there. Some classy, some crazy, you name it. It's there. MTR 022 with a retail price of $15.51 and a wholesale price of $10.98. This is for a 5x6 millimeter oval. Very simple, elegant band with some, I bet this has some kind of cultural significance, but I can't quite place it off the top of my head. It's just very cool symbols on the sides. And nice super tall prongs, so you could put a cabochon in there, you could put a cut stone in there, you could put anything in there. Anything that fits would set in there beautifully. MTR 042 with a retail price of $19.39 and a wholesale price of $14.38. This is for a 7x9 millimeter oval. And again, this is another ring that's very deceptively gorgeous. I love the split shank, the sort of cross over and under each other to create the the framework of the seat. Very cool, nice deep basket. Good size prongs, so cut stones fit in there, cabochons fit in there. Very gorgeous, very elegant. Love it. I love that one. MTR 040 with a retail price of $17.33 and a wholesale price of $12.56. This is for a 7x9 millimeter oval cabochon or cut stone. I think it's designed for a cab with a nice flat seat. But you could definitely put a cut stone in there. Look at how deep that basket is, right? It'd have to be a super deep pavilion to not work in that ring. The only issue would be if, because of the width of the seat, if it sits too high up, you might have trouble with the prongs not being tall enough to fit over onto the crown, right, over the girdle. And if that happens, you could just get a stone setting burr and just carve, the inside edge of that seat, to make it more beveled so the stone sits lower. These little tricks, I really should put together a catalog of simple tricks you can do to make your stones fit because there's always going to be those issues. I keep talking about those things. I really just need to shut up and do them. MTR 271 with a retail price of $14.58. I like to make myself laugh, okay? A wholesale price of $9.11 because I'm the only person who thinks I'm funny. For a 3x4 millimeter oval cut stone or cabochon. This got 6 prongs. Very elegant, very simple kind of crosshatch. Not crosshatch, but what do you call it? Name escapes me, but I'm not going to try to figure it out. I just love how it's kind of like a mirror image. How that comes up the one side, comes down the other side. Here's another one that I really should have prepared this one before, I think, because MTR 029. Is that this one? It's not. Similar, $19.31 is the retail price and $13.51 is the wholesale price. This is for a 10x12 millimeter oval, and this is the one I'm going to end on this week because I'm at 59 minutes already. So let's talk about this ring. It's got, simple split basket, right? Very elegant, very simple band, or split shank, right? Or vertical split. It's got not a super deep basket, so you might be able to put, a cut stone in here. This obviously is designed for cabochons, and every once in a while you're going to have some cabs, and I've seen them, and they're almost always moonstones or labradorite, rainbow moonstones or labradorite, sometimes opals, but usually rainbow moonstones or labradorites are the worst offenders for this. Sometimes tiger's eye too, but again, rainbow moonstones and labradorites are the worst offenders of this, and they do it because the chatoyance, you know, that flash that you get, it's very easy to carve away when you're cutting cabochons. You know, if you cut it too thin, if you cut just a little bit more of one, you know, layer than you need to, you lose some really interesting flash. So sometimes those cabs are ridiculously thick, and that's what this rig is for. You know, so you can, you know, obviously, chances are good that unless it's a ridiculously thick cabochon, that you're going to need to cut these down a little bit, and that's okay. They're designed to be cut down. I've seen people, and oh, should I say this? I'm going to say it anyway because there's only 2 people watching. So we have a review on Etsy for a customer saying, "I'm so happy with my piece. It's so gorgeous. It's beautiful." And they posted a picture of it, and the prongs extend literally all the way into the center of the stone. They almost meet in an X pattern in the center. And I looked at it and I thought, "Oh my God, that's horrible." Please cut your prongs. You know, they don't need to extend all the way onto the stone. They only need to extend inside the perimeter if it's a cabochon, inside the perimeter, or 10 to 50% of the way up the girdle. And again, I should just produce a video explaining this. So that's my talk about this ring, MTR029. If you've been having trouble finding something that will fit your stones, boy, we got you covered, don't we? And then some. This is just, I love this. So good. It's also really good, I guess, if you really wanted to hurt somebody, you could put this on and just real punch them with them. Although we have some men's rings that have really tall prongs that are really super thick and would be really painful if they hit you. Anyway, let's just leave it there. Oh boy, sometimes I have way too much fun doing this. Like today. Today was so much fun. Thank you for joining us. I tried to keep it under an hour and I failed again. 1 hour and 2 minutes. We'll get better next week. Which I always say last week. Next week we'll get better at, and we never do. I promise I'm going to be a little bit more on the clock here watching this. If you have any questions about anything that we've seen today or we've seen ever, if you have any questions about any pieces that you bought from us, if you have any questions about any jewelry making questions at all, you know, we're here. We're a resource. I had been teaching before I started working for SilviaFindings. I had been teaching jewelry fabrication and casting for 20-something years, so I doubt very much there isn't a question that you could ask that I haven't at least been asked before or tried to circumvent in my own jewelry fabrication things. Now, obviously, this is a little bit different because the jewelry is already made for you. But there's always little tweaks and tricks that you can, pick up to help you set your stones a little more successfully. Very simple tools, very, simple procedures, but sometimes little tricks that you might not know of. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm doing it again. Mark, stop it. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week for the number 40. I even forgot. 44. We'll see you next week for number 45, issue 45 of the SilviaFindings catalog live stream. In the meantime, keep making stuff. Keep working on stuff. Let those creative juices flow. Don't let the state of the world and the universe get you down. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Take care of the planet. Take care of each other. Most importantly, love everybody. And we will see you next week. All right. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. How do I turn this off?